Have cows and pigs, but this farm, they've got bison.
I never thought in a million years I'd be raising them.
And only took over a decade of hard work to turn a reclaimed coal mine into a thriving ranch where you can learn how these animals have fed America for centuries.
The Plains indigenous tribes could not have existed without the bison.
Celebrating Central Illinois, sponsored by Express Employment.
Back in 2011, my husband and I decided that we needed to start planning for our retirement. And we had visited some relatives out in Wyoming. We were introduced to the bison business, and we felt like it was a nice, healthy form of meat. He had worked with several zoos, and he had worked with large mammals and bison, and so we thought that might be a good alternative to working full-time. We didn't know that we were going to be working full-time with the bison, but we did. We moved to Illinois, and arguably the biggest problem that we had was trying to find affordable land. So in 2011, we were able to find this reclaimed coal mine, and we put our first animals on it in 2012. We had our first calves around 2013, and we began selling product in 2014. Back until the 80s, this was an active coal mine, and the entrance to it was across the road. But in the 80s, the coal ran out, and so the government reclaimed the mine. I think it was completed by 90 or 92. It had been, they can't build on it, of course. They did crop some of the land up north 10 or 15 acres. And several people tried different things. I think it was a horse ranch, it was a shooting club, there were some other things, but nobody really could make a go of it. So it had been repossessed by the bank, and it fit the bill. When we were looking for land that was affordable. I have a daughter-in-law that's a toxicologist, and so we were able to do testing of the water and the soil and the grass and made sure that it was healthy for bison, and it was. So then it was a go. Today we have 68 acres. We've got about 40 animals down here on this herd. We actually have two herds. We have a breeding herd in the south part, and we have a bachelor herd in the north part. I love the bison, and I'm bringing the bison back, but I also like the fact that we're able to take land that basically was not being able to be used and start to reclaim it back to the tall grass prairies, which were here 200 years ago, with bison on it. So they're kind of returning to their native home. We have a hill out here, and on a warm day, they may be down under the trees, but they're just likely to be on top of the hill. A bison can thrive in temperatures 20 below zero. They can survive in temperatures about 40 to 50 below if they're in the herd. So they're built to survive here. And you know, we've been out here in a snowstorm, and they just turn that great big old head into the wind, and the snow beats on them, and the snow doesn't melt because they're so well insulated. So you just see this big shape with black eyes and black feet coming at you. It's cool. I'm sure everybody's seen those pictures on the internet. Yeah. So I think that the reason that we've seen the big success lately in the bison coming back is the food value. People realize it's a healthy type of meat. They demand more of the meat, so more and more people are raising bison, and there's now about 600,000 in North America, and National Bison Association is hoping that we'll have 1 million by 2024. So with bison, bison normally have one calf a year. There's a 9-month gestation, just like with humans. The calves are cinnamon color when they're born, and that helps distinguish them. The other bison can tell that that's a baby bison, not a wolf or a coyote or something else. Typically, they start turning brown at about 4 months. Harvesting bison usually is between 2.5 and 3 years before they're old enough to harvest, and the meat's always good, but that's kind of the peak time to get it. A bison in captivity will live 20 to 25 years.
Is the female horns
They'll breed 15 to 20 years in captivity. In the wild, they don't make it quite that long. An adult male on the hoof will weigh around 1,800 to 2,000 pounds. Our animal out here that we'll see is about 1,800. Females are around 1,000 to 1,200. Hanging weight's usually 600, 5 to 600. So you get a good amount of meat. You get the same cuts of meat off of them that you would a cow. They do have a great big muscle underneath their hump that's a roast, and we call it a hump roast, and you don't get that on a cow, but it's the same muscles, it's just more developed. I grew up in Kansas. Bison were in Kansas. Bison have actually been in every state except for Hawaii. I always thought they were really cool, but I never thought in a million years I'd be raising them. I do, you know, they're the national mammal. Back in 2016, they were designated as the national mammal. And it is okay to eat it. You can't shoot the national bird, but you can eat the national mammal. People ask me that at the market. You know, I think that as I've studied more and more about the tallgrass prairie ecosystem and the history of our country, they really are our country's animal. They beat out the beaver to become the national mammal, and I think a picture of a bison is much more stoic than a picture of a beaver, so I'm glad that they did. But they've been here since before man. They've fed, part of our slogan is bison feeding humans for 10,000 years, and they have. The Plains indigenous tribes could not have existed without the bison. They were almost hunted to extinction. I think that one interesting fact is at the beginning of the 18th century, there were about 60 million bison in North America. And by 1856, there were less than 300. And the only continuous herd has been in Yellowstone Park. So there's a lot of reasons for their decline. Civilization, the Europeans coming in and killing them for their hides. There was a guy called Hornaby who was the first director of the Bronx Zoo, and he was a taxidermist. And he was, about 1900, he was out gathering bison to taxidermy, and he thought, why don't we just bring some back to the zoo and have them at the zoo? And so that was really the start, kind of the reclaiming of the bison. And they brought some back there. The first group didn't make it. They brought some more back. The herd grew, and then they were able to put herds of bison out at different areas around the country. We harvested and sell at the farmers market in Urbana. We sell at the Frankfort, Illinois farmers market, and Harvest Market has our product. And we sell you to me, or me to you. Again, by calls, yeah. And it's a very healthy kind of meat. It's low in fat, it's low in cholesterol, it's high in protein, iron. Well, it's my red meat, so I'll eat it 2 to 3 times a week. When I eat red meat, that's what I eat. Although every once in a while, a good cow steak tastes good too. But I just believe in it as a heart-healthy alternative to meats. And we're not trying to replace cattle. You know, it's just another meat, just like chicken, ham, cattle, bison. But it's a good tasting meat. Doesn't taste like cow, doesn't taste like chicken, doesn't taste like deer. It's kind of a sweeter meat. Buffalo are water buffalo and Cape buffalo. If you're talking about the animal in the United States, it's a bison. In the United States, the terms are used synonymously. Because when the Europeans came over, there's an animal called a European bison and a bison, and it kind of looks like these. And so when they came over, they didn't know what to call these, so they called them buffalo. And it's just stuck over the years. But the scientific name is actually bison. And the only true buffalo are the water buffalo in Southeast Asia and the Cape buffalo in South Africa. So the stuff you see in the stores when you see buffalo chews and buffalo cheese and buffalo stuff, it's from that water buffalo, because there's no way you're going to milk one of these animals. And the National Bison Association several years ago got that taken care of. So now, you know, truth in advertising, if it says bison, if you're wanting to make sure it's what is our native animal, it's a bison. Although people still call it buffalo. I've always thought of farming as meaning more crop, and we do not grow crops here. Ranching, to me, the first thing is stewarding the land. And I think that raising any kind of livestock, probably pasture management, is the biggest issue that people have. Managing bison is a fairly easy thing to do. You know, they've been here 10,000 years without my help. They do just fine. Managing the pastures is a little bit harder. Reclaiming the land, there was a lot of sweat equity into this as we were reclaiming the land and building the fences. But they seem to be happy here. We do offer tours out here. It's by appointment only, and they can reach us on the website. And we have had school groups out here. We have a special rate for school groups. The Airbnb is run by my son and his wife. And again, you can find that on Airbnb. It's Stay at the Ranch with Bison, or just looking for Airbnbs in Newman. And I've given educational programs to civic groups. Talk to civic groups, talk to organizations, have them out here. We can get kind of up close and personal with our bison in a very controlled environment. We don't like people out here unless they're accompanied by one of us, because bison are not mean animals, but they are wild animals.
Super long one.
And they're not going to hurt you if there's any way they can get away from you, if they feel threatened. But if they can't get away, as many people in Yellowstone will tell you, they're going to go after you. So we do like to have a staff member or one of the family out here.